Hello, everyone. I want to look at the final round of the Dortmund chess tournament. This game is between Vladimir Kramnik with the white pieces and Matthias Bluebaum from Germany with the black pieces. So the game started off knight of 3, d5, g3, bishop g4, bishop g2, e6, castles. So we have Kramnik returning to one of his familiar reti uh, opening systems. Very flexible. Knight of 6, d3, bishop e7, h3, questioning the bishop h5, and now c4. Sometimes sometimes white will play for e4 also, um, kind of in a King's Indian attack style. Um, but I think it's more testing for black with the bishop, um, the black bishop on g4 and here h5 to play for the move c4, exploiting the fact that black has committed his light squared bishop to the king side at such an early stage in the game. There's pros and cons to every move. These systems, black's bishop would often come to often come to f5 or g4, and it's very effective. And it's one of the main lines. But when white has the opportunity to play c4 and exploit the absence of that bishop from the queen side, I think it's better to do so. And Kramnik plays c4 here. This is meant by c6, and already white is putting pressure on the black position with this move queen b3. Now the problem is how to defend the b7 square. Bluebaum played queen c8. Queen b6 is possible, but I think white just gets the better of it. A simple position. White accepts the double pawns here, but has his rook on the a file developed for free. And they'll be pressuring those dark squares on the queen side at later on in the game. b6 simply just weakens the queen side a little bit more by advancing the pawn, especially the c6 pawn becomes weak here. So normally black wants to try to keep his structure a bit more solid and plays a move like queen c8. Kramnik opts for g4, driving the bishop back. Bishop g6. And this prevents the bishop from playing bishop takes f3. So c takes d5 now, c takes d5. And now the next stage in white's plan is to exploit the presence of the queen on c8. So normal developing moves, bishop f4, knight c6, knight c3, castle, and now rook ac1. And again we see opposition with the queen on c8 and this rook on c1, which can lead to dangerous tactics. Now is white winning here? Of course not, but he just has this subtle pressure on the position, and it's easy for black to go wrong. And also black does not have a lot of options for counterplay in the position either. So this position for black is kind of a still, very solid, but still. This is the type of position that Kramnik excels in. Basically, black has to wait around and try to hold the position rather than really try to pursue anything active here. Okay, so Kramnik just has a nice position with a small advantage. This is why I don't like these type of positions as black. But sometimes you get in them. So queen d7, getting off the file. Knight e5. Knight takes. Bishop takes e5. So now black pursues some counter play on the queen side. Excuse me, on the king side by playing h5. This is a provocative move. g5, hitting the knight, and now the knight goes back to e8, and the pawn on g5 is exposed. f4 is played by Kramnik, and now bishop c5, d4, and Bluebaum opts for the move bishop to b6. Now here, Kramnik plays a very dynamic continuation here, and the idea behind this move is to destroy black's seemingly solid center and mobilize his own center. As you can see, the position is pretty blocked up, and it's hard really to make any progress for white on the c file, as the bishop is on b6 guarding c7. The knight on e8 is also guarding c7. So although black's position is quite passive, it's hard to really come up with a way of getting penetrating via the c file. One possibility is playing knight a4 with the idea of trying to either capture the bishop on b6, doubling those pawns, making those a target, or even occupying the c5 square and taking control of that. Perhaps another idea would be to play a move like queen a3, and again exploiting the dark squares on a3 to f8 diagonal, and again incorporating the move knight a4 and then knight c5 in there at some point. So those are those are two options. Actually, it's like the same type of plan. I just threw queen a3 in there as opposed to knight a4 right away. I like Kramnik's idea here. He plays f5, a positional pawn sacrifice here. Bishop takes f5, and then he gives up the exchange. Rook takes f5. E takes f5, and this opens up the bishop and destroys black's center at the same time. So let's just go back to see what he's getting in exchange for the exchange sacrifice. Notice that the white bishop here is pretty much ineffective at this point. And after this exchange sacrifice, the whole diagonal opens up for the bishop. Excuse me. So f5, bishop takes f5, rook takes f5, e takes f5, and now knight d5. And we see the opening of the two bishops and also creation of this pass pawn in the center. Queen e6, king h1. Of course, notice the pin here. You have this opposition, and so this bishop is in danger of being captured. So king h1, rook to d8. Kramnik plays queen f3, and he starts probing these kingside pawns. g6 is played here. Now Bluebaum had some other options. Perhaps a move like rook d7 is possible. Maybe the continuation knight takes, a takes, queen takes h5, knight d6, b3, rook a8, rook c2, knight e4, and you just have some dynamic play here from both sides. The game is pretty balanced because of the exchange. So g6 obviously just protects this pawn here. Another way of dealing with the protection of the h pawn is to advance it one square. So for instance, if h4, we had the same idea. Knight takes, queen takes, b6 this time. Queen takes b7, utilizing the fact that the bishop's diagonal is opened up. d6, bishop f2, and these are just sample lines to show you some of the possibilities in the position. So again, black is up the exchange, but white has the two bishops and a more fluid pawn structure, and all of black's pawns are pretty weak. So again, this is kind of unclear. Some might like white in this position, and some might prefer black here. But back to the game, Bluebaum played the natural move g6, just protecting the pawn. e3 by Vladimir. King h7. Now, the reason behind king h7 is clear, as Kramnik has in mind possible sacrifices on the h5 square with the knight. So he's kind of like getting ready to deal with that. So there's knight f4, queen e7, attacking this pawn right here, and now queen g3, protecting the pawn. And the idea behind behind that, of course, is to play queen h4 and then sacrifice the knight on h5. So bishop c7 is played. And now Kramnik gives up the other exchange. Rook takes c7. And this gives a great insight into Vladimir's style, because he realizes that there's only one open file in this position, and that the minor pieces are more important in this position than the rooks. Like, notice the two black rooks on f8 and d8, right? So yes, on paper the rooks are more valuable, but in this particular position, the valuable pieces are the minor pieces, most notably that bishop on e5 and knight on f4, and of course that bishop on g2 is now a monster. So those are the most valuable pieces, and Kramnik, understanding that, gives up both of his rooks for minor pieces. And both for bishops, actually. He gave up the pair of rooks for the pair of bishops. So rook takes c7. And of course, rook takes c7 is important because black wants to just trade off and play bishop takes e5. If he could move again, he would just play bishop takes e5, d takes, and queen takes. So basically, it was a judgment call. Do you play bishop takes c7 or rook takes c7? And again, as I just explained, rook takes c7 was the choice for Kramnik, based on the fact that in this particular position, he felt that his bishop pair and his knight would be more valuable than the rooks that would be left on the board. And it's hard to argue with that. The bishop is on a powerful square on e5, and it cuts off critical squares for the king and facilitates a mating attack. So rook takes c7, knight takes c7, and now bishop f6. So now here we have it, bishop f6. So now some of you may be saying, well, look there, he's gonna give up the get his exchange back. But that's not the purpose behind the move. Kramnik has no plans on getting the exchange back, because again, the value of the rooks in this particular position is not that high. What is more important is this attack against the king, with the weak pawns on the king side and the dark squares around the king. So Vladimir is maneuvering to facilitate a sacrifice on h5, and that's what this is all about. So what he does with bishop f6 is he drives the queen away, but he also prevents the move f7. Any kind of lateral just even if it's a sacrifice whereby black can defend itself on the 7th rank laterally with the rooks. He just sticks that piece in there, and now f7 is, f6 is impossible. Now here, Bluebaum plays the move queen b4, which is understandable. If the queen, some white queen moves, perhaps he can penetrate onto the 1st rank. And he's also threatening this pawn here. Kramnik plays knight takes h5, g takes h5, and now a powerful move from Kramnik, g6, and again it's all about penetrating into the dark squares with his queen. So g6, king g8. If f takes g6, then this knight will be captured with check. So for example, f takes g6, then queen takes c7, and that will lead to mate. And now you can see one of the additional benefits of attacking the queen with bishop f6 as the queen was driven away. It is this variation why, I'm going to go back now that I showed you that, instead of queen b4, this is why queen d7 is a little bit better, because now that variation where the knight is hanging on c7 does not exist. But here, black, instead of playing knight takes h5 here, which would be a blunder, because like I said, this wouldn't work. Just simply f takes g6, and the knight is protected by the queen. But instead of knight takes h5 right away, queen h4 getting a little closer, and instead of attacking on the g file, the attack would occur on the h file. So king g8, knight takes, knight e8. Of course, if just g takes, then it would be mate in 2. Again, attack occurring down the h file this time. There's no way to stop queen h8 from happening. So in this line, the knight could not be captured, but knight e8, trying to remove the bishop from the equation. Knight f4, threatening mate on h8. Knight takes f6, g takes f6, queen d6. Powerful move here, bishop d5, and now you have this pin here, so this pawn is unprotected. Rook c8. These are desperado moves now. Black is losing. The idea behind that, of course, is to penetrate down to the 1st rank, harassing the white king. And this is the sample line, of course, but I just wanted to show it to you so it'll better illustrate what's going on in the game. And here's a nice combination: is just bishop takes f7. Of course, rook takes f7, and the queen would just capture here. Yeah, why not? I'll just show it to you. And then after king h8, then just simply queen takes f7. So either way, queen d7 or queen b4. So basically, the queen b4 line leads to an attack down the g file, and queen d7 leads to an attack down the h file. So queen b4, knight takes h5, g takes g6, check, and we're back at the game, of course. King g8, queen g5, and now here, Bluebaum played the move h4, and this is based on a miscalculation for a perpetual check. Kramnik obviously seen this, threatened mate in 1 with queen h6, and queen e1, it looks like it will be perpetual, right? How are you going to stop the checks? And this is why h4 was played, so that the queen, the black queen that is, would have support on when it lands on g3. So king h2, queen g3, it looks like he'll simply go back and forth. But after king g1, queen e1, bishop f1, Bluebaum had to resign, as there is no way to continue successfully checking the black king. After queen g3, king h1. Let me just save this. So for example, after queen g3, king h1, now what? Okay, so queen f3, bishop g2. Now the black queen is forced off the checking squares where it wants to be. So it's off the black squares now, and that's why there's no more perpetual. See, it's forced to go. It's forced to check on the light squares. Before it was here, and it would like to go back and forth, back and forth. Unfortunately for black, black would be forced to start checking on the light squares, and then would not be able to keep checking white any further. This is why Bluebaum resigned after bishop f1. But I just want to take you back, and this will be the conclusion of the video, because like I said, this was based on a miscalculation. He thought he had perpetual, and again, if you look at the position at first glance, it definitely looks like you can come here with the queen and boom, 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 boom. So definitely good game by Kramnik. What he had to play here in hindsight is the move is knight d5, with the idea of providing more assistance to the king right here. It's very scary, but I mean, he has to play a move like that. And a sample line could go bishop d8, right? Finally getting back the exchange, and queen d6. And this has a dual purpose, of course, recovering the piece, but trying to protect the king. G takes f7 check. King takes f7. Queen takes h5. And it looks scary, but black, can pull a Houdini here. Bishop g5, rook c8. Got to protect that first rank. Queen d1, king g7. Notice the strategic placement of the queen here. That's why queen d6 is so important, being on this diagonal. So when the rook comes to c8, threatening that, it forces white to make some defensive maneuvers. h4, rook c7, queen d2. He has to keep an eye on that first rank. And then a3. Again, this is a sample line, but we can see that the position is dynamically balanced. But I do like white a little better here. Black has the rook, but white has an extra pawn and a pair of bishops, and the black king is exposed. But again, the game would still go on for many moves at this point. But you cannot blame Matthias for not, for missing a move like knight d5, especially with this this discovery right in front of the king. I mean, I would be looking for a perpetual also, because you play a move like knight d5 and you think, well, he'll just rip the king side open. But even after g takes f7 check, I mean, there's some cool moves right here from white, from black, where he just can't land that knockout below. So here it's wild, but it's actually white that has to be careful here. He really has no more than a perpetual. So for example, again, after bishop takes d8, knight takes e3 is very powerful, with the idea of removing this bishop on g2. And white will have no more than perpetual at the queen h5 check, and just going back and forth between h5 and h6 with the queen. Another option, instead of going after the exchange, is playing the move queen g7 check. Again, White is not able to put the nail in the coffin there because of that knight that's on d5 and the queen being on b4. So, for example, bishop takes d8 again. There's knight e3, bishop g5, knight takes g2, check, and black starts to take over actually in this position. White just does not have enough firepower. So based on my conclusions, knight d5 was definitely the move right here. Now, of course, after knight d5, bishop d8, notice in the variations, I never really try to capture the bishop or anything. Because black has to just focus on his king safety here. And again, white has a perpetual after knight d5. But I think that's the move right there that would have kept the party going, so to speak. And if white tried for more with g takes f7, then he would have had to been very careful not to play a move like queen g7, which looks good but ultimately does not deliver. So anyway, in closing, I would like to say that Kramnik played a very exciting game. You know, double exchange sacrifices are always pretty cool. And another thing is this opening, this reti, New York Capablanca system, is very dangerous weapon. It looks, and the thing that's dangerous about it looks boring. It is boring to a lot of people. But the thing is it's black. You have to be very careful because it's easy to get a solid position and feel that you've equalized, but you don't have anything to do. And that's kind of it's like that old saying. They say idle hands or idle mind. That's what it is. An idle mind is the devil's workshop. Meaning, if you don't keep yourself busy and occupied with something constructive, that something bad is bound to happen, or you come up with a bad thing to do. And it's this is one of those positions where black, develops pretty simple, easily in the opening, and it's pretty solid, and white just has a minimal amount of pressure. But then it's like black doesn't really have too many constructive things to do in the position. And then, he just simply drifts off into, the oblivion of bad choices. And next thing you know, it ends up like, who would have thought from this position that it would end up in the, vicious mating attack, from here. So beware if you're black and you're playing against this stuff. Make sure that you have something to do in a position. You have something constructive of plan of counterplay. Because if you get caught without counterplay, you'll end up like Bluebaum in this game. So that is it for now. Please like and subscribe and comment, and I will see you soon.